Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Raffi, as always, joined by Theodore and Davian. Boys, I may be sick, but speaking of things that were sick, the World Cup final was this past weekend, and that was truly, truly sick. That may have been the greatest, actually, no, it was the greatest sports event that I will probably ever watch in my life. It's definitely top five already. It might be number one. I think, Theodore, you caught some of it. Davian, your
I
thoughts?
watched the whole thing, so
Absolutely incredible. I mean, I picked France to win pregame, and I just thought they'd come in doing a lot of things right. Argentina absolutely dominates, and then you know Mbappe just flips the script. It's incredible what he was able to do. One of the greater individual efforts we've seen in any sport event. It's absolutely absurd. People have tried to put it into words. It's like and what people have said. It's like drop in 60 points in Game 7 of an NBA Final. Like that's
Oh,
the closest
100%.
I think came. It's absolutely insane what he did.
yeah. I mean, I feel like this World Cup final was magical in a way, and it capped off one of the, like the greatest performance of soccer we've ever, like I think the world has ever seen. Um, I think that with all the, I feel like with the lack of hype going into the World Cup, I thought it was going to be a very disappointing performance, but I was happy and shocked in a way both that performances were great by all teams, but that final was just surreal. And seeing Messi lift up the soccer Lombardi was amazing to say the least. Yeah, I got no words to say. I think Theodore covered most of it.
Not to toot my own
Mm.
horn, but toot, I did have Argentina winning it all. A lot of people said it was rigged. I think if you just saw Argentina versus France, the face cover with Argentina winning, you'd probably say it was rigged. But with all the chaos that happened, I just don't think that if it was rigged, they did an amazing job of making it not look like it was rigged because it was a tremendous tournament. Argentina, as you mentioned, winning in penalties. It was 3-3. Messi had a goal. Mbappe had three goals. I just want to put this out there. In 4 years, 5 years' time, it will not be Messi versus Ronaldo. It will be Mbappe is the GOAT. Because the performance that he put on the world's greatest stage when his team needed him, amazing. Obviously, Messi is amazing.
Right.
He is the GOAT. Ronaldo also amazing, also a GOAT. Kylian Mbappe, we are watching a new generational player take over the soccer world right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, Raffi. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've been reading some stuff up on this debate, or people talking about the same stuff we're saying now. Messi, in my eyes, and obviously, most of his career was before I was like actually watching soccer or even
Right, right.
concentrating soccer. But so much of Messi up until this point, where he's truly gained separation, I feel like has been fueled by the Messi Ronaldo debate. You gotta wonder if Mbappe is hurt by the fact that he might not have that other young player who's anywhere near his level because
What about
I
Holland?
don't know if
Holland
right now.
won't be the guy who wins all the trophies because Norway, unfortunately, right now, maybe things will change. Obviously, Croatia used to be more of a nobody team, and now they're coming off of runners up in 2018, and now they finished third in this tournament. So it's possible for Norway to make a run at some point and get some good guys coming forward, but unless Holland can Zlatan Ibrahimovic his way and will his team into the World Cup, into the Euros, and go far, there won't be that kind of debate on the world stage. But certainly, I agree with you. There can definitely be that inner debate with just the regular league play that they're in. Although Mbappe is in with PSG in the French league, while Holland is with Man City. I also want to mention something real quick, and this is something that I found not too surprising because I've watched the World Cup before. I've seen these global tournaments, but the fact that all four of the semifinalist teams, Argentina, France, Morocco, and Croatia, when they came back, regardless if they had won or lost and when they had lost, their fans really just went all out to support their teams. As American sports fans, I don't think it's very common to see that many people still supporting their city, being there to cheer on their team after losing a big game in the championship. I don't think we see that at all in
Mm.
American sports. And to see Morocco get the praise that they well deservedly deserved, to see Croatia, who coming off another great run on the World Cup with probably Luka Modric's final run, and to see all their fans get so happy and just glad that they got third. And obviously France, so disappointing, but to see how everyone just the reception for them was just really beautiful. And obviously Argentina was so crazy that the parade got canceled midway through and the players had to get
Yeah.
airlifted. Bananas.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out that as American sports fans, we don't really see this kind of stuff happen when teams lose in the playoffs or with fans when they lose in the playoffs.
Look, international soccer is something that'll never be replicated in America.
Oh, 100%.
And even just all these European countries, like soccer, and even, in some of the countries like Serbia, Greece, basketball there, people are going crazy. Just the level of fandom in these countries is off the charts and something we'll probably never see in America. Something like college football is the closest thing we'll get to that, I think.
Yeah, by far the closest thing that we get is college football, and even then, it does not replicate the
nowhere
fandom
near.
that you see.
Absolutely. 100%. Unless you guys have anything else to discuss about that, we'll move on to some small news. Carlos Correa, as of early this morning, late last night, has signed a 12-year, $315 million contract, as being currently reported by a number of sources, with the New York Mets, which is hilarious because the San Francisco Giants were dubbed as the destinations for Aaron Judge, both of your guys' boy, along with Carlos Correa, both coming to the Bay Area, and they have been stolen by both New York teams. Theodore, we haven't talked really about Aaron Judge, so I want to hear your guys' thoughts about him coming back. I know this was a couple weeks ago, but your thoughts on Aaron Judge coming back to New York. I'm a bit disappointed because I wanted to make fun of you guys, respectfully, of course, and the thoughts on Carlos Correa going to the Mets.
Okay, well, incredible to have Judge. I don't care how much we paid him. It needs to happen. To have him back as a captain, perfect move. Look, talk all you want about money. We are the New York Yankees.
You
We
have
do
so
not
much money.
care.
You gave him
Right.
basically like $10. Like that's like the equivalent.
Exactly. We as a franchise should never have to worry about money. Go back to the George Steinbrenner days where we can just, roll out the checkbooks for anyone. And as of right now, that's what the Mets are doing too.
Wait, big markets are supposed to be spending money? No one's been telling the Cubs that. They actually have made like a couple signings and have opened their checkbooks a little bit, but in years past, for a team, for a
Yeah.
top five, arguably top five market in Chicago, the Cubs spend their money like they are one of the bottom five teams, like the Pittsburgh Pirates, which makes absolutely no
Yeah.
sense. But continue on.
Yeah, so look, the Yankees, I'm glad we spent money, but what we did looks even free. Like what the Mets did looks even crazier because Steve Cohen is probably the most absurd owner in sports right now. Like what he's going to be doing in this team at least until he wins his first World Series ring, which I do believe he will win at some point, is going to be incredible. Like they had the second highest payroll in all of baseball, and I believe they more than doubled it this offseason. It's just absolutely incredible. The fact that literally every single major free agent or trade option for the foreseeable future is going to be linked to the New York Mets just because of what he can do, with his wallet. Correa is the first of many to come to Queens, if you ask me.
See, that's a good type of owner because we see in owners very commonly, Dan Snyder, sorry, still a bit sick, who meddle in all their team's affairs and everything and gets involved with everything. But I think what we're seeing with the Mets is more of what you'd want to see out of an owner, where the checkbook is open, they're willing to spend money, they want their team to win, they're the biggest supporter, but it also isn't like directly like, oh, like let's do this, let's do that. So they're letting the GM, they're letting the coaches, they're letting the players do their jobs, but also using their resources to be like, hey, let's go win a championship. Davian.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you guys. At first, I wasn't really a big fan of spending so much money on Aaron Judge, but considering we're the Yankees, it's New York City.
Well, think about how much money
I think
think about how marketable he is too. Like, yes, you're paying all
right.
this money too, which first off, he is worth it. But then also just the market, like the amount of merchandise, the amount of this, the amount of that you can make
Yeah,
off of Aaron Judge in New York. Again, it's like $10.
yeah. I kind of agree with that, and I think that's why the Mets did the same move with Carlos, and so I think I think it's a good move by. I mean, kind of what the Yankees owner today, he stated that I'd love to. I love that both New York teams are really making big moves, and I hope to see that they end up at top on top at the end of the next season. And I think that's why I know there's an investigation going on whether Yankees and Mets have been meddling with each other like
Probably.
behind the scenes, which they probably have. As have like other teams as well, but I think what they're trying to do at this point is try to benefit each other in a way because if they both make it to the World Series, it's gonna go like the New York City's gonna go nuts. Every
So
single
much
game's
money.
gonna be sold out. It's gonna absolutely like the metropolitan New York City, Metro New York City will go absolutely bananas. To really put it in the most layman's terms. So I think overall it's good moves, but while as much as I love baseball, quick flip to basketball. My New York Knicks are on an 8-game winning streak. They might be currently losing to the Raptors, so maybe it ends at 8 games. But I just had to quick shout out to the Knicks. They've been doing awesome.
Well, if we're doing,
Okay, and while we're
yeah,
talking basketball, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is him. The man is incredible. He's
He's
averaging
absolutely nuts.
32 a game. He's hitting. I believe he already has like 3 game winning buzzer beaters or something. It's absolutely absurd. He is a special player, future MVP.
because we're
Yeah, and
all
Jalen Brunson is worth the money.
because we're all hyping up our teams. I just want to mention that your Chicago Blackhawks. Oh, my banner is not in the frame. Regardless, your Chicago Blackhawks, my Chicago Blackhawks, are currently dead last in the NHL standings for points percentage and for points in the NHL. Unlike your Rangers, who are winning games, and I think they're on like a seven. I think it's a
We just
seven or
scored a
eight game
touchdown against you the other day.
I think we just hit
and
7.
an
Yeah.
extra point. 7, 8 wins, I think, on so far in a row. So you guys are back in the playoff race after a slow start. The Blackhawks, we are tanking hard for Connor Bedard. Get ready for the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs because we're coming. We will be
Yeah,
there.
you're not.
No, you're not even getting close. Come on, let's be honest. You guys are gonna trade away your best players, and it's gonna be back to square one like usual.
We're doing a great job with our teardown, and this should have happened like 5 years ago. So
Yeah,
better late than never, I guess. Speaking of teams that
yeah.
don't need to be thinking about tearing it down right now, we are going to move to our NFL segment of the show where we're going to break down some teams, talk about if they're going to be a contender going forward into the playoffs or potentially making the playoffs rather as well. Or if they're pretenders, they're going to miss the playoffs or potentially just flounder out. We're going to start with our first team, the Baltimore Ravens, who are currently sitting at second, 1 game behind the Cincinnati Bengals for the lead in the AFC North. They lost last week, and right now they're dealing with Lamar Jackson's injury. I think he's expected to play versus Atlanta
Yeah, I
this
think
upcoming weekend, but obviously the injury is still a concern because you can obviously re-injure it. What are your guys' thoughts on the Ravens? Theodore, we'll start with you. Do you think that they can go on a deep run, or do you think that John Harbaugh's seat is getting hotter and hotter as the games go on?
Pretender. This is a team that can't close out games. Simple as that. Lamar's a good QB. Yes, he doesn't have the best playoff track record, but I don't think that's even the biggest concern. You'd like to think that with a healthy J.K. Dobbins too, that they could, make noise in the playoffs. I just don't see it happening.
yeah, it's not happening. The Ravens are a pretender. They might crack in due to the wild card, or they might just win the division because the division is kind of suckish, and we'll get to the Bengals in a bit. But yeah, I'm not high on the Ravens whatsoever. I will say, kind of what Theodore's been saying, like, the Ravens should have traded Lamar Jackson. Tyler Huntley's a good QB. Past couple of weeks, kind of showed that. Their Achilles heel is really their defense and less so their offense. But yeah,
Yep. So they play the Falcons this weekend, which is certainly a winnable game because it is a mobile quarterback playing against the Falcons, and I know how that's going to end, obviously. Week 17, they play the Steelers. That should be a win, but the Steelers are an enigma this
well,
year.
Kenny Pickett's coming back soon.
They are
Pittsburgh's on a
they
3-1 right now.
They
That's
are
sure.
the NFL version of the Schrodinger equation. There's some physics for you, Theodore, where is the cat dead or is it alive? Are the Steelers bad or are they mediocre? I don't know. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. I have no idea what they are. I thought that they were going to get smacked by the Panthers this past week. you might as well just flip a coin to determine the Steelers' fate. And then obviously they cap off the season versus the Cincinnati Bengals, which Davian mentioned prior. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans, who I believe have lost four straight. They have lost four straight, and are now from being very comfortably ahead of the rest of the AFC South, are now only one game ahead of the Jacksonville Jaguars, just to show you how Urban Meyer just tried to absolutely tank that franchise in Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, if we're talking about players who are him, as Theodore alluded to with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Trevor Lawrence is him. He's the real deal. He's really come into his own. And personally, I have the Titans as pretenders. And I said this 2 months ago on the podcast. I think the Jaguars have a very, very good chance of winning the AFC South. And I don't think that you guys are going to have too much of a disagreeing argument with that, especially when these two teams will face off against each other in Week 18, which surely could be the prime time Sunday night game that we see that day.
Yeah, look, Titans are even bigger pretenders than the Ravens were. I want to use this time to talk about the Jaguars, though. Look, they're on the rise. I'm getting Cincinnati Bengals vibes from this team. No, I don't think we'll see them playing in the Super Bowl, but you got a hot second-year quarterback who's really on a tear right now. Christian Kirk has been elite. ETN has really stepped it up year two, or, it's his first year because of the injury as a running back.
Yeah.
Jacksonville is scary and certainly much more of a threat than Tennessee.
I also want to mention, too, they have the tiebreaker right now. They beat Tennessee a couple weeks ago. Davian.
Beat them again, I'm confident in that.
Yeah, I kind of 100% agree with Theodore. I think the Titans are pretenders. I think the Jaguars are legit. I think Trevor Lawrence was very good. I think their offense is starting to click after, really start struggling in the beginning of the season. I think trading James Robinson was the right move. Gave Travis Etienne more confidence. He's running better. Team's just operating much better. It also kind of from a coaching standpoint, you got rid of one of your options, and so now they have less cards to play with, less players. You're also able to maximize their abilities. So I feel like that's what's being done with Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence himself, because the guy can run. He's a big dude. So yeah, I think the Jaguars are really on the rise. Will they really make a lot of noise in the playoffs? I kind of doubt it, but you never know what's going to happen. It's always the playoffs.
Evan Engram, Theodore's favorite player, right next to Kenny Galladay, went off a couple weeks ago,
starting him in fantasy,
which is just showing you how the Jaguars are just trending up and turning any trash into treasure. Travis Etienne, I know a lot of fantasy owners are very happy that they held on to him. To those who did, congratulations. You guys are letting that pay quite a lot of dividends. Moving on over to the NFC for a little bit, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who came back down 33-0 at the half versus Indianapolis Colts. And first off, the Colts are the real chokers.
Yes.
You guys are a bunch of losers. I could never choke a lead that large. We don't need to talk about the Super Bowl, Davian. Anyways,
right.
The Vikings looked shaky. Obviously, the Colts didn't score all 33 of their points against the Vikings defense, but there's been a lot of talk about this Minnesota defense and how it's going to hold up versus a team like the 49ers or the Eagles. Boys, the Vikings, do you guys think that they are contenders or pretenders?
Contenders, but they're falling apart. Their defense is just falling apart. How do you want up 33 points to the Colts?
Well, again, part of it was special teams, but yes.
Right, yeah, part of it was special teams. Don't get me wrong. Part of it is special teams, but special teams is important. We saw how the Packers basically flopped the last year because of special teams. The Vikings need to figure it out, all around. I'm also looking at Dalvin Cook. He's not doing as great. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. I can't even talk bad about him. He's just playing with Kirk Cousins. Mediocrity at its best. Those are my only thoughts. I think the Vikings are legit right now, but they are falling apart. And I think next week I might be changing my mind completely.
As you guys definitely all recall, because we know you all are dedicated viewers of this show and of my amazing takes, I was the only one who saw what this Minnesota team was capable of. I was laughed at when I picked them to win the division over the Green Bay Packers. How'd that work out? Look, this is a team that keeps defying the odds. They're 10-0 in one-score games. That's absolutely unheard of. It's just incredible what they're doing. And normally you look at teams that have track records like that and you say, oh, that won't hold up in the playoffs. But look, 10-0 is too much information to ignore. This team's clutch. they just find ways to win games, and if they can stay in them, that's the problem. If they can stay in them,
I absolutely,
they
yeah.
got blown out by the Eagles. I believe they lost big to Green Bay one week. So I have no idea if they're going to be able to compete with a team like San Francisco the way they're playing. But if they're able to keep themselves in it, you can't count them out. For that reason, they're a contender.
See, I say make all the Vikings games, playoff games at noon. So
Yeah,
then,
in prime time, that's a fact.
and then, I mean, the Super Bowl Sunday at noon, I mean, I guess that's fine with a lot of people. So I'm sure that would be no problem at all. And we'd get a Kirk Cousins holding the Lombardi at the end of it all, which would be absolutely hilarious to see.
It's gonna be Tom Brady, and then Brady's gonna retire.
You are hilarious, David.
You heard
Davian.
it here first. You heard it here first.
Davian, you're trying to skip ahead a little bit. I appreciate that, but I also don't. Before we talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the New York Giants, Theodore's very own, who narrowly beat the Washington name redacted in a game where there was some controversy at the end. Theodore, I want to hear your thoughts on if it was a pass interference at the end. Obviously we know there's plenty of calls that go both ways throughout a game. So obviously you never want to put yourself in a situation where the game can be called with one call or putting the game in the ref's hands. But first, your thoughts on if it was a penalty or not. And second off, I want to hear your thoughts on the Giants, who've been stuttering a little bit of late.
Okay. Let me take you back. 2021 season. Week 2. We're playing Washington. We hold a 1-point lead. Sly goes out to kick a game-winning field goal. He misses it. This is as time expires. He misses the field goal. Dexter Lawrence is called offsides. You look at the play. He clearly was not offsides. Washington was given a free shot, another kick, which they hit to beat us. You ask me if it's payback. Totally fair. Was it a PI? Absolutely. I'm not dumb. I'm not going to try to deny it. It was a PI. Look, we deserve the payback. We've been getting screwed over on calls like this for so long.
He's right.
About time we get on the back return.
That did happen. For me, the Giants, I feel like their stuttering is a big, red flag for people to recognize. Are they legit right now? Yes, of course. I mean, you can't say that they're not legit, but as they're going into the playoffs, I think they're not going to go super far. But them getting into the playoffs is already, something. It's already important. So, for the Giants to get into the playoffs when they weren't really expected to, I think it's big for them. I can't say much. I can't really trash talk the Giants, especially after the Patriots' performance this week. Nobody can tell me that any other QB could have made that tackle. Nobody's tackling Chandler Jones. Not even Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Trace McSorley, who I love very much.
Throw it on a dime.
Did bad for the Cardinals, but I just need to say that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So
after Davian cut me off, I am nowhere near done. If you guys thought you were getting off the on Josh,
I was wondering why it was so short. You only took like 20 seconds. I'm like, this is not a vintage 2-minute long rant. David, you might want to grab your pillow, take a little nap, take a little breather, relax your voice. Yeah. Theodore, continue.
Davian thought I'd thrown in the lateral. I'm not Ramondre Stevenson. I'm going to keep going here.
I will always be willing to throw it back over to you, Theodore. And I know that you'll secure it and you'll continue on with the point.
Yes. Okay. So look, have we struggled lately? Yes. Do we have any good receivers? No. We do have grit, though. We have,
you guys have teamwork.
They got teamwork. Woo.
What up, Davian? Okay, look, Andrew Thomas is elite. He was somehow not named a Pro Bowler, but we're going to ignore that. He'll be all pro. He's a rock. We got decent play on the inside, good enough to create holes for Saquon. Saquon can still control games. He had 52 yards in the fourth quarter of that Washington game as Davian continued to doze off. Look, the fact of the matter is this is a team that not quite as well as the Vikings, but we've found ways to close out games. I believe we're third in the league in those fourth quarter comebacks, only behind Minnesota and Miami. I really, really feel like we can go on a run. Look, we got wrecked by Philly, and we'll have to change that. I don't know if we can beat San Francisco.
Definitely
but
not.
I know that we as a team can compete. We'll put our best foot forward, and I think we can go on a run. And come on, I really thought I'd say we're pretenders. The New York Giants are contenders.
Sure, they are, Theodore. They definitely are. We all agree with that, right, Davian?
What? Yeah, 100%.
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
All right, throwing it back over to the NFC North real quick. No offense to the New England Patriots. I want to talk about the Detroit Lions, who are absolutely on a roll. I didn't mention this in the
Yeah,
pre-show, but I think we all would like to talk about them. Since November 6th, 15-9 beat the Packers, beat the Bears by a point, 31-30, then beat Theodore's New York Giants 31-18, lost to the Bills
okay.
on a game-winning field goal. Very good game. The Lions played great in that Thanksgiving game. They did not maintain the stereotype of them sucking on Thanksgiving. They're a lot more respectable. They clobbered the Jaguars 40-14, and the Jaguars have been on a roll since then. So that one looks good. Beat the Vikings by 11 2 weeks ago, and then this past week held on to beat the Jets. Yes, the Jets missed the last second field goal. Yes, Zach Wilson balled down that final drive, and I will give him some praise because, like, let's be honest, he doesn't really get any praise ever, which is deserved. Boys, Detroit Lions, you guys think that they're going to make the playoffs? I know the answer's already yes for me because I just think that Dan Campbell's got this team playing great, great, great overall. And obviously, firing I believe their defensive backs coach has really helped them out. Their defense has actually gotten a lot better, which I don't think he was the direct cause of, just him being fired. But I think that the defense has woken up and they're making some good stops. And obviously, Jared Goff, I don't think he's QB1 for the Lions in the future. I still think, personally, they're going to take a quarterback, maybe Ohio State CJ Stroud. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the Detroit Lions.
Goff's balling out right now.
They're
And
legit.
we've also seen him, 2018 in the playoffs, minus that Super Bowl game against New England. He showed he can play in the playoffs and step up in big moments. It's crazy to think that, this is the same guy. I just don't associate him with Rams, Jared Goff for some reason, if that makes sense. Still, though, he is a capable QB. The team's on fire. Aiden Hutchinson's a beast. I believe in Dan Campbell to get the team into the playoffs. And then, this is a team that always compete. The NFC is really weak. I think that's why you have all these teams like the Giants and the Lions that I view as contenders, and another one we'll talk about in a minute. Lions can absolutely go on a run, possibly even win a playoff game or two.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
David, I want you to talk about this team real quick before we continue on. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have been fighting hard all season long. They are putting up an amazing record in the very tight and very competitive NFC South. Oh, wait, look. Oh, looking at the wrong division. Whoopsie. NFC South, the Tank Bowl, obviously starring my Atlanta Falcons, who are at the bottom right now on a 3-game losing streak. Desmond Ridder looked pretty good. Tyler Algier. The run game for the Falcons is keeping just my optimism alive. I like where the Falcons are going forward. They have a ton of cap space. But that's for another episode. Davian, Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles. I think we know they're a contender because it's Tom Brady. I, for one, will never count out Tom Brady because after he scarred me for life, I am legally obligated to never, ever live that down. So I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Tom Brady has another comeback in him, or do you think that it's time for him to sail off into the sunset?
I think he's got another comeback in him. I think it's going to be his last ever comeback. I don't think he comes back after this year, unless really he loses and then ends up in San Francisco and then carries San Francisco. I honestly think this team is abysmal, though. I think
respectfully, of course,
play is sad. Their wide receivers are always dropping the
throw
ball.
the ball to Mike Evans in the end zone. My goodness, as a Mike Evans fantasy owner, he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 4.
Yeah, that's an issue. Other issue is that wide receivers are dropping the ball. Brady's throwing it up too high or sometimes too low for them. The offensive line itself isn't sometimes giving Brady enough time. I think the blame does go on Brady to a certain degree, but I think the blame more so goes around the offense, really. The run game is getting better now with Rachaad White, but still not solid. Wide receivers look like a bunch of old schmucks, but they're not. Like, it's Julio Jones, fine, he's old. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Scotty Miller. I mean, it's a legit wide receiver core, but they're not doing anything with it. They look like the New England Patriots, and they're not supposed to be. And I'm not saying that looking like the Patriots is bad, but geez, come on. There needs to be a change in the Buccaneers. They need to figure out their chemistry because right now they have none. And also, just a quick comment on the Patriots, their wide receiver core is much worse. Just saying.
The Giants are worse than all of them.
Yeah, probably. But like Patriots wide receiver core is like.
But Theodore, I'm confident though that your wide receivers know when and when not to lateral. Maybe they still run the ball on third and 10 or 3rd and 2 inside your own 10, but I think you guys won't lateral it backwards. David, any final thoughts before we move on to the final team?
No final thoughts.
All right, Theodore, you have
Yes.
45 seconds to a minute. Discuss the Los Angeles Chargers and if you think they're a contender or pretender. Also, just want to mention Justin Herbert 0-5 when trying to become a above 500 quarterback. He still hasn't done it yet.
I don't know how you found that or how you think.
I was watching a YouTube video earlier today.
Good to know. Okay, look, the Chargers are a team I highlighted as preseason. Not my pick. They were my pick. They were my pick to make the Super Bowl, and I don't know.
They're not. It's not. Come on.
I just not seen it. Herbert as my fantasy QB, not going so well. He just I don't know. He still plays like an elite QB, and he's turned it up lately, but this team just isn't good enough. And it's sad because it really, really, really looked like they had done everything right to build up a contender, and I just don't think they have. So I'd like to be proven wrong here. They're a fun team. I'd like to see them go on a run, but best case scenario, they maybe sneak by and win one playoff game, but I don't see much more happening in this stacked AFC.
Quick shout out to their social media team. They put out an amazing, really funny advertisement on getting Austin Eckler into the playoffs, into the Pro Bowl. If you haven't checked that out, definitely do. Chargers, they were the most. I was really high on them, almost like the Colts, really. They added J.C. Jackson. They had so many good players, and they just haven't really done much. J.C. Jackson, of course, is on injury reserve. He didn't play well before that. Maybe it's just like the new system isn't really clicking with him. I'm glad the Patriots didn't pay an arm and a leg into getting him. But yeah, I feel like I hope this Chargers team does better, but I don't see them. I don't see it right now. I don't see them. I feel like they're a pretender.
I would be a bit nervous about Chargers fans rating our TikTok, Benchwarmer_sports. You guys should follow. We're on the road to 500 followers. Shameless plug. And them potentially coming onto our YouTube podcast and rating our comments, telling us how dumb we are. But I still don't think that the Chargers have any fans. I don't think they exist. I'll see influencers post on their social media, but I think that they're getting paid by the Chargers to go to those games because, let's be honest here, do the Chargers really have fans? No. But that's going to close it with another beautiful Raffi makes fun of a team's fan base for having no fans joke. I hope you enjoyed this podcast as we broke down the World Cup and the NFL as a whole, who's a contender, who's a pretender. Reminder, there is still 3 weeks, my goodness, left in the NFL season, so a lot can change. We'll be sure to break that down as we move on. Once again, follow us TikTok, Benchwarmer_sports, trying to have 500 followers before 2023, so you guys are going to want to be one of the OGs, so be sure to follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, tell your friends, have a great rest of your day, and have a very Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah for those who celebrate. I know Davian is having a great time right now. And then if you celebrate another holiday, have fun. That is all.
Peace.
We hope you enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day.